Hello everybody, I'm Conquering History Games, and welcome back to part 3 of my United States of America campaign here in Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order. So there's a couple of changes I want to talk about. First off, it's been like a month since I played this. Been a very crazy holiday season and whatnot. Number 2, I have put in the sub mod, which grants the vanilla UI, or the GI, excuse me, for the New Order, just to kind of go a little bit easier on my eyes, because my eyes have been straining a lot lately. It's not just the mod, it's other things. Like, I'm going to need to go to the eye doctor in January. I think I might need to update my prescription. But it's just a little something that's easier on the eyes, so I hope nobody minds it. I know that it gives that... there's a certain aesthetic that comes with the New Order that people enjoy, but this is just for my own sake. I do also enjoy the other UI. The unique aesthetic is, I think, a big part of the I don't know what you'd call it. I don't want to keep saying aesthetic. The vibe, the sense of the New Order. But I just need to let my eyes relax a little bit. And then finally, I'm pretty sure that things were running a little bit slow in the first 2 episodes, even when I was on 5 speed, but basically I've just made sure that things are up to date, and we're just going to... oh yeah, we're just going to... hold on. Yeah, we're done with that. Just jump into it, and as you can see now, I go on 5 speed, we're going to hit midnight, and then... okay, yeah, I've kind of tested this before. The things kind of go a little bit faster, generally. So, ooh, fun! This is a fun little event to start things off with. He soared in his rocket ship above the earth as he gazed through the capsule window at the continents stretched out beneath him. He realized just how small mankind truly was. It occurred to him that if every human being had the opportunity to see what he could, how insignificant all the struggles and wars and vendettas were, the world might finally know peace. A peace where everyone could work towards the advancement of science, prosperity, and a sudden ringing cut across his psyche, and he was jolted from a dream of days past. Sitting sluggishly awake from his sadly earthbound bed, he fumbled for the telephone on his bedside cabinet and pulled the receiver to his ear. John Glenn speaking. Way too early in the morning, I might add. A panicked voice came across the line. John, it's James. Have you heard the news? Glenn rubbed the sleep out of his eyes and replies, James Edwin Webb. I have not even got out of bed yet. Be more specific. They're defunding NASA! A hastily made coffee and a frantic flip through the morning paper later, and John Glenn felt a wrench in his gut as he faced the prospect of his life's work being all for naught. So what? The Germans got to the moon first, and that just means space is over? What can we do? They can't just give up on the future. Nixon's already made his mind up. He wants to move the money over to the military and other practical projects. Webb paused as Glenn made an outraged intake of breath. I really don't think there's anything that could stop him at this point. I'm sorry, John. Glenn felt himself back in the Riviera of spaceflight. The government could not let the dream of space be but a dream. America had to live to see the stars. Nothing we can do? We'll see about that. Some men still dream. Alright. So, where were we? Now, we were waiting for, like, the I Have a Dream speech or something, right? Oh, first we've got some elections. The United States is once again gearing up for the election season. As per the Constitution, all seats in the House of Representatives and a third of the Senate seats will be up for grabs in November, along with innumerable state and local races across the nation, and the course of American politics will change with it. Status quo or radical upheaval, it is time for the people to decide. The Republican, Democrats, and National Progressive Party, along with numerous third parties, are gearing up their political machines across 50 states. There's special focus going to those Senate seats up for grabs. Tens of thousands of volunteers, campaign staff, and candidates are gearing up to begin the primaries, rallies, whistle-stop tours, public speeches, glad-handing, and debates that will dominate the nation's attention for the next few months. Issues of great importance will be debated. Candidates will be scrutinized, and eventually millions of voters around the nation will get the... Sorry, something got caught in my throat. And eventually, millions of voters around the nation will get the chance to make their voices heard, and the greatest democracy in the world will once again prove itself. Keep America strong and free, vote R&D. Or fighting for you and me, help elect the NPP. So I don't think that in terms of roleplay, I haven't said the path I want to go down, right? Well, hopefully this isn't going to screw it up, but let's see. How do we... I'm trying to remember how we check the Senate manage subject. I don't remember. So what we're going to do is we've been getting our hands dirty, estranging people. So we're gonna say that this is kind of backfiring on some people. Yeah, because things have not really been unified that much. So we're gonna say the NPP has been strengthened from this. So it says that this will unlock decisions to help the MPPs. Here, yeah, so they can campaign in various areas. So this shows basically in the various parts of the country what the tilt is right now. And right now, all signs are very easily pointing for a Republican Democratic victory everywhere. So I'm just gonna, like, every 40 days just activate a campaign. There's a, depending on, it looks like basically there'll be a 15% chance there's a great success, 50% chance there's a good showing, 20% chance it's middling, and 15% chance that an awful blunder happens. So there is a little bit of RNG at work here. So I might as well explain this now. I will not hesitate, at least in this series. In future ones, I'll probably stick to whatever I did, because I'll probably come back and play the United States again. But I will not hesitate to use console commands to get the president that I want if I make a mistake. Or I might go back to an older save file and do it again. But I don't have as much free time these days as I used to. So, or at least, yeah, I just don't. So I don't think people are going to have a problem with that. It's the New Order. The New Order is primarily a narrative-based game. There are going to be wars. I plan on being involved in wars over the course of this campaign. But primarily, I want to show and explore, because I don't know it all, the domestic things that go on in the United States during this time. So speaking of which, let's read about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Amazing movie, by the way. One of the great villains in cinema history. Makes me absolutely terrified to ever end up in a lunatic asylum. From the sun-drenched hills, revanche-laden neighborhoods, and wild underground economies of the Bay Area comes the debut model of one Ken Kesey. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's bizarre, profane, provocative. A gauntlet thrown onto the table of American literature. Inspired by Kesey's work as a psychiatric orderly in Menlo Park, California. The novel follows one Randall McMurphy. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not asylums. It's psychiatric facilities, whatever. I'm just saying, I'd much rather go to jail. Anyway, McMurphy, a veteran of Scotland and proud street brawler, is sentenced to time in a psychiatric hospital for battery and illicit gambling. There he meets a number of characters, including the novel's narrator, Chief Bromden, and the tyrannical head nurse, Nurse Ratched. Over the course of the novel, McMurphy challenges Ratched's rule, standing up for himself and the other patients in the ward. He is rewarded for this with a lobotomy courtesy of Ratched. The novel ends with Bromden smothering McMurphy in an act of mercy before escaping to freedom. Cuckoo's Nest has already garnered its fair share of accolades and controversy alike. Many are calling it a portrayal of America's own authoritarian systems in an age when the nation is supposedly a bastion of liberty in the world. Hollywood star Kirk Douglas is rumored to be seeking the adaptation rights, while schools across America are rumored to be banning it. It's so crazy I plan to vote for Eisenhower again this November. Okay, this is important. The civil rights movement is reaching a crescendo all across America. There are protests, rallies, and riots hosted by civil rights activists, and they get worse by the month. Just this week, a massive march was held in Birmingham, Alabama, the heart of the segregationist South, with tens of thousands of activists, white and black alike, calling for equal rights. Although it started civil, Local police chief Eugene Bull Connor quickly deployed riot police and set dogs on the protesters. The peaceful march quickly turned into a running battle in the streets between police and activists. This event has been widely televised across the nation, with the average American shocked by the police brutality on display in Birmingham. Many of the more liberal news sources across the United States have likened the events in Alabama to those in Germany decades ago, citing police brutality and the suppression of activists to draw parallels with the Nazi regime. Worrying. These guys are seasoned already. Okay. Bormann has been named the successor to Hitler. I think he always does that. I'm just going to kind of click random areas. We're just going to keep campaigning in them pretty regularly. Counter-protest in Birmingham. 1 week ago, civil rights activists held a protest in Birmingham, Alabama that quickly devolved into a riot. I'm sorry, excuse me. I got to get some water. I got something stuck in my throat. Oh, wait a minute. What? Oh my gosh. OBS updated something again and now I can't. Alright. We're just going to have to struggle through it, guys. No, never mind. Tens of thousands of people opposed to the civil rights movement have staged a countermarch, waving the flags of the Confederacy, their home state, and even a few swastikas. In comparison to the previous week, the police chief didn't even bother deploying more than a few lightly equipped beat cops, several of which joined in the protest. Furthermore, there are reports that pro-civil rights activists attempting to flock to Birmingham to continue the movement have been driven out of the city by police and locals alike, with several would-be protesters returning home battered and bruised. With the rising violence in Birmingham and elsewhere, Vice President Kennedy has reportedly convinced President Nixon to consider federalizing the Alabama National Guard and deploying it to restore order in the state. Even more worrying. Okay. Yeah, so the thing that I was seeing is like the OBS software that I use, which is just redundant because the S stands for software. Hold on, let's do South Africa plan. One of the last true democratic strongholds in Africa who are not fully opposed to working with us. A plan has been drawn up, slowly draw the U.S. and South Africa together in order to protect their democracy and to weaken the grip of German fascism in Africa as a whole. So, you know. So this has the potential to turn into this nation's Vietnam. That's what, or this timeline's Vietnam. That's what that's supposed to be. At least that's always been my understanding of it. Okay, cool. So we have somebody new here. Let's kind of build an intel network in, I don't know where. In Africa for now or something. Why not? Do I also want to... Am I building anything here with the... No, I'm not. Let's start with some passive defense and go from there. We'll probably then do some decryption stuff later. But yeah, the OBS software used to have a thing where you could pause the recording and then click unpause and it'll still be in one video. That no longer seems to be there. And I think that's because there was an update that just happened. I don't know why they would take that away. I'll have to look into that. Cracking Fortress Europe. President Nixon stared at the world map onto a screen in the White House briefing room. In the center was America, encircled, facing the Japanese and their colonial minions to the west, and the Germans and their slave empire to the east. But where the Japanese and Americans had only recently escaped Armageddon's embrace in Hawaii, the Nazi Empire was fraying at its seams. Hitler grew older and more infirm by the day. No amount of clever camera work and pre-recorded speeches could hide his creaking gait, his once mesmerizing oratory shrunken into senile rambling. Germany's moon landing was not a triumph. It was an epitaph. Ooh, I like that. Secretary of Defense Melvin Laird looked up from the latest CIA intelligence brief on the German Reich. It's a house of cards, Mr. President. Britain chafes under a foreign occupier. Brittany already deals with us in secret. And the Norwegians continue to resist decades of occupation, and their African colonies will wither on the vine without support.
All held together by a man who can't finish a sentence without forgetting how it started,
Nixon noted.
When Hitler goes, his successors will fall over themselves to split the spoils, like Alexander's generals did in antiquity.
Laird handed over a sheaf of documents from the CIA folder.
It's the opportunity of a lifetime. We'll never get another shot at crippling the Nazis like this.
It's time to go back to the old world.
Okay, then. Let's see here. So let's take a look at our armor divisions here. We have the we're calling them airborne, but I want to do the the frickin' helicopters. So is that mobile? We got motorized anti-air armor. I'm still not totally sold, or I should say I don't totally understand. Oh, no. They are air assault divisions, right? They just, I think it's because I went to the GI. That's why they look this way. Okay, let's work on. Never mind, we don't have any. I was gonna say let's shift things around, get it to where I wanted to be, but we don't have the necessary. Oh yeah, let's analyze an area. We're gonna start setting up some things in Africa via the CIA budget, but okay. In defense of the stars, John Glenn stood before an assembled mass of scientists, engineers, science enthusiasts, and journalists. He had already spoken with a few people and shared in their frustration at NASA's civil situation, talked about his experiences as an astronaut, and even signed a couple autographs. Now, he needed to make a big splash. I had just been having a pleasant dream about my last mission when my good friend James Webb woke me with the news. I was distraught, to say the least, to know that the government was giving up on the future of space travel, partly because the thought of never going up there myself again is saddening to consider. But that's not the only reason. By ending our involvement in space, President Nixon has given up. He's accepted stagnation and decline, abandoned the stars to the fascist powers. He says we lost the space race, but as long as the stars still shine, space will never be lost. I implore that the president reconsider his options. The future of America, and the human species as a whole, lies above us. About 20 minutes later, Glenn made his closing remarks and was greeted with raucous applause. He felt satisfied that his words had hit their mark, and with so many journalists in attendance, tomorrow's papers would carry them further still. Yet he still felt defeated. His words alone would not be enough to save NASA. If American space travel was to have a future, it would need a voice to represent it in the halls of power. John Glenn had never been one for politics, but as he thought on it, he realized that political office may be his best course of seeing his dream fulfilled. As he drove home, he recalled that Ohio's governorship was up for election in a few months. It was an almost crazy thought. And yet, an astronaut in office? Interestingly enough, we're very soon going to have another astronaut in power here in the United States. Because I know a lot of you who watch this don't live in the United States, but Arizona recently elected Mark Kelly, who was a former astronaut, as a senator. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech. A lot of exciting events happening. I say to you today, my friends, in spite of the I'm not going to try to impersonate MLKJ. Can't do it. But basically, he's giving the I Have a Dream speech, in which he also kind of passively roasts Mississippi, calls them out specifically, when he says, I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Mississippi, the here's to the state of Mississippi. If you drag her muddy waters, nameless bodies you will find. A desert state sweltering with the heat of injustice and oppression will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. On the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, prominent civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech to a grand crowd of over 250,000 people. His words have already spread across the country like wildfire as men and women, black and white alike, spread a new slogan, I have a dream. The time for action is now. And so that focus gets bypassed. So after we're done with the South Africa plan, we're going to come over here and we can, I think, then do the party splits, or is there anything else that's still blocking it? Civil rights issue has intensified. Okay, no, never mind, not yet. The RDs run a respectable campaign. According to reports, the most recent Republican-Democratic regional campaign has been going quite well for the party. While they aren't blowing us out of the water by any stretch, their fundraising has been solid, their candidates are appealing, their voter enthusiasm is where it needs to be for them to win in November. We need to keep a closer eye on them. So it says we because we are now approaching things from the point of view of the NPPD Unity Party, which, now that I actually think about it, I probably should have just said I was on the Republican side because I am the Republican-Democratic side because I am Republican-Democratic. Oh, you see, that's not good. And then I could have just ignored everything. So I've actually made a mistake. But it's fine. It's the midterms. If it's going to be a little different if we have a real problem come the presidential election. So it's saying, okay, I could do Operation SRFEA ST Friest. We're going to damage the ability of Germany to conduct operations in this region. Okay, yeah, let's do that. But yeah, we're still not doing any of this here. So we're gonna start training a new operative. Can't do any of the stuff here. So we can launch an operation and just like blow out our budget here. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna allocate anything and just do the coin flip. So we're gonna try to stop the Germans from pulling stuff in Africa. Okay, passive defense is done. So yeah, I just wanted a little bit of that. Don't care much for the rest. Let's start. I think we're gonna just go full cryptology for a while. A German spy has been arrested, ironically disguised as a Jewish American. Let's see. In his phone book, he had the telephone number of several local NPP politicians inside, and it seemed he was trying to contact the party's fringe elements, including the fascist agitator Francis Parker Yockey. Charges for violation of the Espionage Act are already being brought up against him, although he will likely end up simply being deported back to Germany rather than facing a long prison term in the United States. That's one less Nazi to worry about. What's this no template thing? The Scout Healy, right. So I guess we should just train our army or something, just to try to get a little bit of army experience coming in. Okay. Opposition campaign's gonna happen. Alright, yeah, I see we can't do party splits. So let's keep preparing to screw around in Africa. We're going to expand some business ties out there. So we need to make it worth defending. Let's encourage American businesses to invest there. South African Tango. Secretary. So I'm not going to read every single word of every single event. I'm not saying that there wasn't great work put into this. But the fact of the matter is I know I'm doing this for an audience. And so I'm going to mostly highlight the things that I find particularly interesting or particularly relevant. So...
Unknown caller.
Oh my god, who the freak is doing this spam? Shush. I'm so sorry. Let me turn that off. So people always wait to call when I'm recording. Okay. So basically South Africa wants to join the Organization of Free Germans. Or excuse me, of Free Nations, not Free Germans. But they also want to keep Germany off of their backs, and they know if they join, then Germany's going to intervene, and so like they're kind of towing the line. So, the South African ambassador says the Germans are making their move. Herzog's Boer nationalists are talking to the Germans. South Africa is in danger, and we need help. What kind of help are we talking about? Financial, intelligent, above all military. If the Boers and Germans want to fight, we won't make it easy for them. So basically, the Boer Republic over here around Pretoria essentially is going to maybe split off, or just something's about to happen. There's insurgent groups and the uninsurgent group within the Union of South Africa, and so things are starting to come to a head, and Germany is just there to the north. Okay. Operational success. Our mission was successfully accomplished. All men are returning home safe and sound. Rousing victory for the CIA along with America and the free world. With our tracks covered in the world a bit safer, we can rest easy preparing for our next incursion against the fascist menace. So now our operatives can do some other stuff. And the important thing is that we got extra expertise. So we have 8 now. And then if we have 50, I think we need at least 50 for all of these things. We can get different things. So we're going to maybe screw around a little bit with CIA. Maybe get that friggin' belly buster, which is nice for the political stuff, right? Of course, we could also go for some mission success stuff and just keep freaking what do you call it? Feeding itself. All right, what's this? Operation Jewel. So this is something. Support institution in critical states would mean keeping our Anglo friends in power. Well, right now it's the Kingdom of England, so I'm going to guess that actually means helping out the resistance movement or something. We're also going to launch another operation. We're just going to keep doing them over and over again in Africa, just to build up expertise, unless there's some sort of negative effect that happens if we lose. But meaning I'm not going to put any money in, though. So, many residents of poor Europe often heard stories about life at the province of the United States. Let's see. The Other America debuted in bookstores across the country today. Discusses issues of poverty. Many poor residents live in social isolation. He calls for politicians to take immediate and remedial action to rid the country of every aspect of poverty. Economists are already devising ways to make education and healthcare more accessible to the country. America's biggest misconception debunked. That was like that kind of reminded me, and I'm not going to say how I feel, whether I love, hate, one or whatever, either of these guys, but I do remember in the when are you guys going to be watching this? No, by the time you're watching this, it's still 2020. It reminds me of earlier in the year at one of the Democratic primary debates. So there were two candidates, Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg, who had different ideologies, but Bernie kind of is in favor, or was in favor, or, yeah, I guess it is still, what if he's alive, of gross oversimplification, y'all, but he's in favor of a Scandinavian style social democracy, if I could grossly oversimplify that. And Pete Buttigieg was against a lot of those kinds of policies. But I just remember there was a part in the debate where Pete Buttigieg starts praising Denmark out of nowhere and says, if you want the American dream, you have to live in Denmark. And then Bernie Sanders gets this confused look on his face. It's like, and we were all going, "What the?" Because my friends and I were having a watch party, and because we're political geeks and we like to watch all the debates and primaries and stuff. That was the one downside about 2020. There wasn't a Republican primary, because then you get both sides and it's more fun. Anyway, even though this actually affects people's lives. So anyway, and yeah, we're just waiting for Bernie to just go into the mic. It's like, yes, that's what I'm saying. It was a really confusing moment. Clearly, the guy got a soundbite wrong or mixed up. Anyway, polls have been updated. Let's check in on the horse race. I'm trying to remember how I actually do check that. We have a current expertise of 33 already. Yeah, but how do I actually check? Yeah, because it's congressional situation. Pass legislation, we need at least half the votes in Congress on our side. We have 85 votes, which is more than enough. But where do I actually look at the Congress? Okay, a House divided. Okay, cool. Now we can start working on civil rights, either for or against it. There's the House divided speech, which, even though I love Lincoln quotes, we're going to skip it. Although the institution of slavery was torn down at the end of the Civil War by the 13th Amendment, a failed Reconstruction and decades of Jim Crow ensured that the issue of race would not or could not be solved. As the divide within the Republican Democratic Party debates turn into fights and friends turning to enemies, the truth only becomes clearer and clearer. The party as it stands cannot be saved. Yet there is still time to act. America must once again reckon with its issues of race, be it through words or war. We can only pray for less blood to be shed this time around, for the fate of the world rests upon this near divided house. Can't you two just play nice? By the way, I think the Democrats kind of got the long end of the stick on this, because this kind of plausibly could be the tail, but the elephant just has like a weird donkey coming out of its ass. An ass coming out of its ass! Okay, so the party has split. And now we're going to come to the crucial decision, which is my understanding actually leads to potential presidents in the future. So, like, this is kind of the first choice you make in terms of who your future presidents are going to be. Excuse me. Of course, there can be crossover where you go from right to left or left to right, for lack of a better word. Operational failure, so we didn't get the expertise, but besides that, I don't think there was any negative effects. So we're just going to keep doing that, because if it's free, let's just do it to farm expertise. So, party splits. So it's basically, what are we going to do about civil rights? So we can go with Kennedy's plan to do a Civil Rights Act, or we can crack down on the movement, which leads to a vetoing of the Civil Rights Act. All right. Family dinner. Speaking of the Kennedys, I think actually we'll pick this up in the next episode. I'm Conquering History Games. Thank you very much for joining me. It's good to be back. I'm going to be spending a lot of today recording this, so hopefully I'm going to get a lot done. And then I'm going to get the first episode of the series uploaded tonight, actually, because usually I like to record the entirety of a campaign before I release it, but I think if I can get like 10 episodes up, then I can go ahead and start. And I'll probably just keep Hearts of Iron 4 offline so that it doesn't accidentally update and break my save file. But anyway, thanks for joining me. I will see you all in the next one. Please subscribe if you haven't already.